Okay, so without wasting any time, let's get into the uh, ops concept. Okay, so basically, if any language claims to compliant with the ops, right? So what it means, like, if any language is claiming that it has the ops concept inbuilt in their language, um, so whenever they are saying that, that means it has some basic features, functions, characteristics of the OOPS. Okay, so basically there are the three basic functionalities that needs to be uh, followed if any language considered to be the OOPS language. Okay, so let's say like in Python we, okay, not about any language, those three concepts or the characteristics are, let's say like we have the inheritance, we have the encapsulation and the polymorphism. So what those are, we dive deeply into it right away. So here, let's start with the inheritance. So inheritance, what it does is like, inheriting the properties of the another class is nothing but the inheritance. Okay, so let's say like, by taking the example of, let's say we have the class of name, let's say person. Okay, okay, sorry, okay, person, uh, and we have another class. Okay, let's say student. Okay, so I need to inherit the person class inside the student class. So what happens here is the student class will become child and this will become the parent class. So inside this, let's say, I'm mentioning something like, in every class there is a constructor, you might be aware about, that is the init method, that we need to call. Okay, and every method inside the class needs to have a self keyword. Okay, so here, what happens here is now, let's say like, we need to assign some names to the person. Okay, so let's say like, self dot name is equals to name. Okay, and self dot age is equals to age. That needs to be mentioned here too, because it's a definition, right? It's a function. So name and age we are mentioning. Okay, got it. Another definition we will create is to display, uh, okay, and oh sorry, okay, so here also we need to mention the self keyword because it's a definition inside the class. So to display we need to print self dot name comma self dot age, right? Okay, so after that, let me comment this out first. Okay, so let's start with it. We need to define the uh, object here. So let's say like we are defining the p1 object here as a person. Okay, and inside this we need to pass some values, right? Let's say like, I'm passing Shivraj, and let's say the age would be like 25. Okay, and whenever we are calling the display method, it has to display whatever inside or whatever the object that we have instantiated, all those values needs to be displayed here for this particular instance. Okay, so let's run this. So it is displaying the same, right? So get back to the okay, another class, right? So we are referring to the inheritance. So what happens here, whenever we are inheriting the properties, right, uh, from the person class, here also we need to inherit variable names, right? So for that purpose, let's say like we have this init method having self, we need a name, sorry, age, and let's say student ID. Okay, and inside this we need to, here are the three approaches here. Like, we can directly use the super class, we can use directly the person class, we can directly declare the variables. So let's go with the super class, super method. So here super dot that's in it. Okay, sorry, and we need to get this right. So what we need to get is name. Oh, sorry, I think, yeah, okay. We need name as well as age. Get back to the another variable, that is the student ID. We need to mention the student ID here. Okay. Okay, so that's enough for this. Nextly, move on to the another definition. So we need to override the display method, which has already been mentioned in the person class. That this display method inside the student class will override the method of the display class of the person class. Got it? So here we need to print. So what we need to print is whatever the name and the age that the person is having. Sorry. Okay, and as well as like student ID we need to mention. Okay, so let's say like this is self student ID. Here also out of the class we need to mention the we need to instantiate the object, right? So let's say s1 is equals to student. We are mentioning the same credentials. Okay, so apart from this, let's say we have the student ID as a 567. Again we need to display, right? So s1 dot display. Okay, so let's see what it will do. Okay, so what it says is a student dot display text 0 positional arguments. Okay, so student dot display text. Okay, sorry, we need to mention the self here, right? Because every function inside the class is a method, and every method needs to have first um, self character, self keyword mention. So here it is successfully printing the Shivaraj 25 and 567. So that's about the inheritance, because the student class inherit the properties of the person class in the form of this name and age. Okay, so let's move on to the what we call this as encapsulation. Okay, so what encapsulation is, basically encapsulation is used for the security purpose, right? Let's say like in a companies we don't want someone to modify or edit some of the private variables, um right? So here we have three types. Oh, okay, so what are those three types? Is like public, private, as well as protected. Mostly we use the um, private or like public. Okay, so here let's start with the okay, encapsulation method. Just I will explain you the overview, like what encapsulation is. Encapsulation is something which is combining all the features methods inside one entity. So let's say we have one entity, let's say like car. Okay, and inside class, like we need to mention this init method, right? Because it's the constructor which will run at the start. Okay, at the start we also need speed to be mentioned whenever we are declaring the object or instantiating the object. So let's say like we are defining init constructor here. Inside this we need to uh, assign this private variable is equal to whatever we mentioned in the at the time of creating the object. So this double underscore speed indicates the private variable. Got it? Let's move on to the okay. Okay, so that is for the declaration purpose. Apart from this, I think we don't need anything inside this. So we just need two methods. Like let's say like we need to get the speed. Okay, so for the speed we don't need the speed variable to be declared, so we just need to say like we just need to return whatever the private variable whatever the private variable is associated with. Also, like let's say like we mention set speed, where we are setting the speed. Okay, and let's say if we are checking for something like self speed to be greater than 0, then what you need to do is self dot speed is equals to speed whichever we are declaring inside the speed get speed set speed object. Okay, so that's it. And next move on to like yeah, here let's create a class. Okay, define a variable class 1 is equals to, okay, so car 1 is equals to car having the speed, let's say 80. So this is the instantiating the object of the class. Okay, so once the object has been instantiated, we need to use whatever the method inside those, right? So let's say like I'm doing this car1 dot get speed. Okay, and I'm printing this. Okay, so let's see what it will print. So it will print 80. Obviously it is printing the 80. Next move on to, let's say like we are setting the speed before printing. Okay, so let's say we declared we need to set the speed. So car1 dot set speed. Okay, so for the setting the speed, if suppose we are mentioning 90, the get speed method should reflect 90. So let's see what happens here. So it is reflecting 90, so both are working fine. And whenever we are trying to access this out of the this self speed method out of this particular class, it won't allow us to mention. So that is the security purpose encapsulation. Okay, so what happens here, this we have declared the private variable. Here we are accessing the private variable through the public method. What we are doing here is we are modifying the private variable by using the by using the public method, right? So these are the things. Okay, so encapsulation is good. So nextly move on to the polymorphism. Okay, so what is the polymorphism? So polymorphism is the property associated with the ops. Okay, but what actually it is like let's start with the example so that you can understand properly. Let's say like we have a class by the name of what we can say. uh, okay, let's take the example of bank. Okay, ICICI. So here we have the definitions inside it for the rate of interest. Okay, inside this uh, what we need is let's say we are returning 8, and we have another bank which is SBI. Okay, with the same method, by declaring the self keyword inside it, we are returning, let's say 9. Okay, and we are mentioning something common here. Okay, so inside this, let's say we are doing something. Okay, so we need to pass object of this particular class here. Okay, let's say like bank we are passing here, and we are what we are doing is let's say we are printing bank dot rate of interest whatever mentioned inside. So this is the common interface, right? And let's say like we need to instantiate the object. So I is equals to ICICI okay, and s is equals to sbi. So we instantiated the objects, and actually what we need is we need to call common method, a common function, right? So for that purpose, let's say if I call like this, yes dot, okay, not like this, common, okay, common, yes. So it has to print the rate of interest which is of SPI. So let's see what happens. It is successfully printing the rate of interest of the SPI, right, which is 9. So yeah, this is the example. So by this example you can understand like what polymorphism is. Like what we need is here uh, objects of the different classes, okay, to be treated. So object of this different classes to be treated as instance of this particular what we can say classes to be treated as the sorry. So okay, so what is the definition here is objects of the different classes, like in our case ICICI SPI, to be treated as the instances of this particular object classes, sorry. So um, through a common interface we can say, like this is the common interface, through a common interface, okay. So what it actually does is you know so it is actually considering this class as an object. We are passing this object inside one common method, and we are printing that rate of interest which is defined inside those classes. So what it means is like we can define a method or a function which can act differently based on the object of the particular class it associated with, okay. So this is the polymorphism. So hope you can understand what I want to say inside in this video. So it's the basic OOPS concept that we need to understand, okay. Thank you.